But despite these and many other passages that I could bring before you, this obviously is denied by, I would say, the majority of evangelical Christians today, Bible-believing evangelicals. And so and there are reasons this is objected to, and that's what we're studying today. So let's look now at the actual objections. And notice first, Roman numeral 1, postmillennial. Now this is their argument, not mine. Postmillennialism is disproved by historical decline. Now we live in grievous times. I'm as concerned about the plight of our nation and the world as anybody else is. This is probably the most popular objection. And at first blush, it does seem to undercut the postmillennial hope. How can we have a hope for the future conquest of the gospel when we look around us and our culture seems to be collapsing? Dr. J. Dwight Pentecost, a famed dispensational scholar, says, postmillennialism fails due to its failure to fit the facts of history. So this is his argument. Look around you. How can you believe the gospel is going to exercise dominion in this world? John Walvoord, an associate of Dr. Pentecost, wrote, one wonders how postmillennialists can read the newspapers and come up with this idea. Again, look around you. Your theology does not comport with the world of our experience, is the argument. Dr. J. Adams, a Reformed scholar, and by the way, a local resident, says, quote, the advent of 2 world wars virtually rang the death knell upon conservative postmillennialism. Now, these are strong charges, and they're ones that really strike people as being very weighty. How can you tell me the gospel that has been here for 2,000 years is going to exercise an influence when I look around and I see what's happening? Well, I want to give a response. And the first point of the response is, before I give that response, I would like to make some quick replies that are not real theologically powerful, but are more clever than the ones I'll get to. John Walvoord asks, one wonders how postmillennialists can read the newspapers and come up with the idea. Well, I didn't get the idea by reading the newspaper. That's the first thing I would point out. And that's the problem with dispensationalism. They read the newspapers and then decide this must be a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. But then I would ask Dr. Adams about World War II, for instance. Who won World War II? Did the enemy of the Jews, the enemy of the Christian principles, the Nazis win? Or did the nations with the largest mission forces in the world win? But again, this is not substantial enough where I'd want to leave it there. But as a matter of fact, if they're going to bring charges like that, we can bring countercharges. And Adams says, the advent of 2 world wars virtually rang the death knell upon conservative postmillennialism. That statement implies there is a liberal postmillennialism. And that is impossible because remember the definition of postmillennialism. Millennial conditions will prevail in the world before Jesus returns. Now I ask you, what liberal believes Jesus is returning again? They simply do not. There cannot be a liberal brand of postmillennialism. And so, but let's look at this a little more deeply. The alleged problem is due to an improper understanding of both history and the definition of postmillennialism, which is why I wanted to start with the postmillennial definition. Capital, by the way, sorry I'm speaking so quickly. I've got to get through a lot of material. A, such historical arguments involve too narrow a sample. Too narrow a sample. And it's usually based on a lifetime. We're looking at the world today, we see ISIS, we're seeing, well, this, that, and the other. And so we're saying, how can it be? Too narrow a sample. Or sometimes we'll look over the last century. We've seen decline. We've seen World War I, World War II, and things going on today. We must compare Christianity in the world today with Christianity as it was in the beginning under Nero Caesar. There were 12 disciples, one of those defected, of course, and then there were a few thousand, but today there are hundreds of millions of Christians in the world. Nero's persecution is recorded in Tacitus. By the way, Tacitus was a Roman historian who was born during the reign of Nero and wrote not too long after. Tacitus says this, quote, The death of an immense number of Christians was aggravated with mockeries, insomuch that wrapped in the hides of wild beasts, they were torn to pieces by dogs, or fastened to crosses to be set on fire, that when the darkness fell, they might be burned to illuminate the night. Nero had offered his own gardens for the spectacle. Here is the leader of the largest empire of the world of the day that dominated the whole realm of civilization, enjoying torturing to death Christians as a public spectacle. Those were the conditions in which Christianity arose and took footing. By the way, Charles Roberts, as everybody who attends here knows, is preaching through Acts, which is showing the growth of Christianity, even despite those circumstances. And so that's a helpful series that he's involved in, and I highly commend it to you.